The truth is the government doesn't give a crap about my child. They care about an ideology that is far left driven, and they don't want parents to know that they're doing any of this stuff. And that's why this is so important for them today, is to arrest me, because they need me to remain quiet. They don't want this coming out.
CD, who has no identity, no face, and no name, has been taken off to jail. And what do we do about it? You know, I think that people need to understand that this is where we have come. This is where we are, and what has happened to our beloved country.
Drea Humphrey here with Rebel News, standing in front of the Vancouver Supreme Court to report again on the BC father who tried to take a stand once learning that his child would be going through hormone treatment that would have everlasting changes. And since then, the father has faced criminal charges, and more recently, a warrant was granted or put out for his arrest. That arrest was held to take place today here in this courthouse should the father voluntarily arrive. So basically, I'm going to go in and see what happens. This is over a matter of a publication ban. The father is expected to be the man with no name, no face, and no story, essentially, not able to share with you easily and warn other parents what he says is a danger to young children, especially females, in Canada. Now, I'm going to interview the father first, and we're going to see if the father is going to be held in custody on the way out of here today, or if, for the time being, he will be let go. Due to a publication ban, I will be referring to the father as CD, and we also are not able to show his face. I'm here with CD now. CD, oh my goodness, I wish we were here on different terms. There's a warrant out for your arrest, and you know that when you walk in those doors, you're going to be arrested, right?
I do. That's why I'm kind of waiting around outside and just giving myself a little bit of time here, and then at some point here, about 10 o'clock, I'll be surrendering myself to the courts to be arrested, yes.
I can't believe this has gotten to this point. It started off with you just trying to be a parent. You had concerns after finding out your child was going to be going through the transitioning process, and then you stood your ground with that. Why was that important for you?
You know, it's important because it's about parental rights, and it's about, as a parent, you're supposed to protect your child. You know, what the government is doing by coming in and experimenting with these cross-sex hormones and things, it's ludicrous what they're doing, and they're taking the rights away from parents. And I just felt it was something where you had to stand on this issue. And I've often said, you know, these doctors that are behind this, and I can't mention their names in this interview, but if they're so proud of what they are doing, why are they hiding behind children? In fact, they're not even hiding behind their degrees anymore. They're actually hiding behind little kids. And it's disgusting what they are up to. And crimes against humanity, and here I am the one going to jail while these doctors are running around continuing to commit these horrendous offenses against our children. And I think it's time to stand for our children. That's our responsibility as parents, and we take that right back.
Now, there's a whole lot going on here. You talk about parental rights, you know, not being able to help your child as you see best to help. And then we're also talking about the reason why there's a warrant for your arrest, which is, I guess they're saying, is a breach on some of the bans that were on here. What are the allegations against you?
Well, the two allegations in terms of what's happening today, and it's a bit confusing because I also have a criminal trial coming up in April, which goes back to me breaking the conduct order, which has expired. But in between that date being set and now is the fact that I have continued apparently to talk, and it has to do with my Go Get Funding page, where I put up a documentary for Family Watch International where doctors' names are mentioned. And then of all the ridiculous things, I did a speech at the Hilton in Victoria on behalf of Jen Smith, who was running to be a member of the Legislative Assembly, where Jen calls me up and mentions my first name. That's it.
So what are you expecting when you walk in that door beyond being arrested?
You know, that's the speculation that's the question, the million-dollar question. What is going to happen? Am I going to go home today? This is my opinion. I think they're going to hold me up until the trial in April, because what they've been trying to do is somehow paint me as a criminal, and they haven't been able to do it. Carrie Lynn has been quite successful at keeping me out of the prisoner's docket, as an example, and they need to somehow cement the fact that I am a criminal. And what better way than to arrest me and hold me and drag me out there in a nice orange jumpy on April 12th, right? So that's my feeling, but again, it's all speculation what's going to happen today.
Well, I hope that isn't what happened. I hope we get to talk to you on the way out of here. So,
I do too. I'd like to go home today.
it's a sad day in Canadian history. I just got out of the courthouse. The father, CD, is being remanded in custody at least until Friday. That's when the justice will be giving his decision on what happened here. We're going to talk to CD's lawyer, Carrie Linda, right now. We just walked out of the courthouse after seeing CD be remanded into custody. Now, tell us exactly, just briefly, why that is.
Well, he was, for reasons we don't really understand, they've ratcheted up going after him. They've now arrested him for breaching a court order, which they have already brought into family court in April. Same breaches, same orders, everything's identical, but they didn't proceed by arresting him that time. And then they arrest him here with the curious statement that they don't intend to go to trial on this one. I think that's abusive. I don't understand it. Anyway, having been arrested, anybody who's arrested has to be released on some basis, unless the Crown can satisfy the court that it's dangerous to release this person. And there's a three-part test. One is, will he fail to show up for a trial? No, not here. It's right here. Secondly, is he likely to reoffend? That's the hooker here. And the third one is, would to not release him be offensive to the administration of justice in the mind of a normal person? So the judge has decided he needs until Friday to decide what to do. In the meantime, until he decides, he remands the arrested person into custody. So he will be in the remand center in jail for the next 3 nights and come back in here Friday morning, and then we'll know what the judge intends to do, which could be let him out, give him a fine, or keep him in prison.
Now, my understanding is that if somebody is found guilty of these charges, it could be a serious length of time. Is it around 5 years, or?
5 years is the maximum, after which you're entitled to a jury, which is what unfortunately is not available now. I think a jury would have 100% sympathy with him. So, 5 years would be the limit. I can't see this judge doing that. He doesn't want to make a martyr out of CD, and CD is perceived by the judge to be a man who is a man of his convictions.
And that's exactly what I'm seeing. First, CD took a stand on behalf of his child to try to be involved as a parent in life-changing treatment, and now it's morphing into a stand that is also freedom of speech and the right to be able to tell his story. So what is it exactly about the publication ban that you think is maybe valid in this case and that you think is no longer valid?
Well, I don't think that the doctors who are initialized, whose names I can't mention, ever deserved protection in the first place, and they sure as hell don't now 2 years later. His child, yes. But CD's position is that it's pretty much too late to do anything to save his child. But he wants to acquaint parents of young girls to the phenomenon of rapid onset gender dysphoria. The SOGI program, which happened to him, the school sort of moved his child towards transitioning to the point where they went to a psychologist whose job it is to transition, and from there to an endocrinologist who was on the verge of giving testosterone, all without either parent knowing. And the Infants Act is a co-conspirator in that. Between SOGI and the Infants Act, the warning to parents that he wants to get out is, this could happen to your girl. And you wouldn't know about it until it's too late, as it was with him.
Now, why is it that there was no application made prior to, I know there's discussion of it now, but why was there no application made to have some of these restrictions moved?
I think the honest answer to that is there just wasn't time and too much was happening. I was out of the case for several months during the summer and into their fall, and I only got back involved when the Crown came after him in the family matter, which is set for 4 or 5 days in April. And then, of course, getting ready, trying to figure that out, and now this comes along. And I just said it. And of course, it's a standard refrain from courts. Oh, now you suggest it. Why didn't you do it earlier? Well, there's all kinds of reasons. It shouldn't be an excuse for the court to go ahead and do something which they shouldn't do anyway.
And what do you expect to see or anticipate to happen on Friday?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, the inclination and the law and the Crown would say keep him locked up. Until when? Why? Does Mr. Eby, the Attorney General, who's behind all of this, could be, think that by putting CD in prison, his conscience will shrivel up like the testosterone-poisoned eggs in his now sterile 16-year-old child?
All right, Angelina, how are you feeling after hearing the news or seeing the news firsthand?
Yeah, I'm in shock at this moment. This is not my Canada. This is not the country that I was born into, that I work for, that I raised my family in, that I respect the laws of. This is another Canada. I've just seen a father who has put everything on his life on hold in order to try to protect his child, be taken away in handcuffs in the court this morning. He's been remanded into custody. He was denied bail for the crime of speaking his truth, of telling his story. I believe that in this country that is not allowed anymore. To speak your truth, to try to protect your children. As he sees it, his child has been abducted by an ideology that has destroyed her body, that will likely destroy her future. But yet he's not allowed to speak that truth to people and to warn them and to warn other parents about something so powerful that's overcoming young women. Because, rapid gender onset is affecting young women, young girls in this country at a phenomenal rate. This is something we need to be discussing. This is something that people need to understand what's happening, and he's not been allowed to say that. So at this moment, it's surreal. This is a very surreal moment to think that in our country, where we treasure our Constitution, our democracy, our freedom of speech, and our freedom of conscience, that has been taken. And CD, who has no identity, no face, and no name, has been taken off to jail. And what do we do about it? I think that people need to understand that this is where we have come. This is where we are, and what has happened to our beloved country.
Danielle, we just walked out of the courthouse. We saw CD be arrested. How are you feeling?
I'm actually quite disturbed by what I just saw in court. I think that CD has done a very courageous job in standing up for his child and actually being a voice to society in a very, very difficult situation. I think that we need voices. I think we need faces in society that will speak on behalf of the people, and he was courageous. And I think there comes a time in society's life when we have to call a spade, and we have to say that, look, the courts at some times are in the situation where they can pervert justice themselves. And I think that we have to evaluate seriously, is that the situation here?
And so what do you have to say when the justice said, listen, the courts are in favor of freedom of speech, and then this is the outcome of what happened today?
Right, but freedom of speech also has to come with freedom of conscience, and it also has to come with things like the freedom to show a picture of your face and to show your name. If I can't show my name, then how do I actually really have freedom of speech? It comes with both things. So if he's not allowed to even state who he is, how does he truly have freedom of speech? There is no freedom of speech. Are we living in a communist country? Like, Canadians need to be very aware of what's going on in our country. We need to be able to speak, and we need to be able to speak with true freedom, not a restricted freedom. That's not freedom.
All right, this is Chris Elston. Actually, there is another report coming up at rebelnews.com with Chris, because Chris was just recently brutally attacked for standing up over a matter that relates to why we're here in court today. Now, what is your outcome or what's your opinion of what took place, that this father has been remanded in custody?
He tried to stop his little girl from physically transitioning, and that's what a dad does. He's protecting his daughter, and what's happened today is just a complete travesty of justice. It's a total embarrassment to Canada, and he's taken it hard on the chin for all of us, and he's now going to jail. And it's terrible, but hopefully it starts waking up some more parents, because this ideology is coming for all of our kids, because it's taught in all our school systems. And just today, as I was driving downtown, another person reached out to me, and just because of the school system, their daughter is now wanting to transition, and the dad's beside himself.
No one wants this father's message out. He's expected to have no face, no name, and no voice. But at Rebel News, we bring you the other side of the story. There was no mainstream media here at all today. So if you want to continue to receive our reports and also help support the journalism that we do, please go to rebelnewsplus.com. We appreciate your support.